Hi, hello and welcome back to F1 Challenge VB. My name is Mephisto and our journey through the history of Formula 1 continues today with the opening round of the 1967 season, the South African Grand Prix. But before we begin, I would like to, as always, give a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting this channel. It really means a lot to me. And without you, none of this would really matter. Yes, we are still a small channel, but we are slowly growing, and that's all thanks to you. I would also like to thank those of you who took part in the straw poll, which is a way for you guys to interact with this series. With that said, let's have a look at the poll results. There were a total of 91 voters, which I believe is slightly fewer than last time, but that's alright. Now let's see a breakdown of the poll. LDS, Rec Parnell Racing, Mike Fisher Racing and Owen Racing Organization didn't receive a single vote. Guy Ligier, Lucky Botha, Bruce McLaren Motor Racing and Honda Racing received 1 vote each. Scuderia Scribante and John Love Racing received 2 votes each. Anglo-American Racers had 3 votes. Bernard White Racing, Team Lotus and Brabham Racing Organization received 4 votes each. Scuderia Ferrari had 8 votes. Joe Bonnier Racing and Matra Sports received 13 votes, making them the third most popular choice. DW Racing got 15 votes, making them the second most popular choice, but the winning team by just a fraction was Cooper Car Company. So that is the team Andy will be driving for this season. Hopefully it will bring us more success than McLaren did in 1966. Once again, thank you to all who took part in the straw poll. It's always fun seeing how the poll evolves during the course of a season. And of course, thank you to everyone else for your continued support. You guys are awesome. Don't forget that. With that out of the way, let's have a brief look at how the 1967 season played out. It began on the 2nd of January and ended on the 12th of November. The season was comprised of 17 races, 11 of them were part of the World Championship, whilst the remaining 6 were non-championship events. The season was won by Denny Holm, who scored a total of 51 points despite only winning just 2 races. Brabham finished second with 46 points, 48 with the drop points. He also won 2 races. And Jim Clark finished the season in third with 41 points, winning a total of 4 races. That was a brief look at the Drivers' Championship. Now let's have a gander at the Constructors' Championship. It was won by Brabham Repco, who scored 63 points or 67 with the drop points and had 4 victories during the course of the season. Lotus Ford ended up in second with 44 points and 4 wins as well. And Cooper Maserati finished the season third with 28 points and 1 victory. So that was a very quick look at the 2 championships, but it's time we move on and talk about other things as well, otherwise we'll be here all day. 1967 proved to be another deadly season, claiming the lives of 2 drivers. They were Lorenzo Bandini, who died after a horrifying crash during the Monaco Grand Prix. The car burst into flames when it hit a lamppost and rolled over, landing on top of the Italian driver, who received burns on more than 70% of his body and died 3 days later in hospital. The next fatality was at Silverstone during a test where Bob Anderson suffered a horrible crash as well, when he lost control of his car in the wet conditions, colliding with a marshal's post. He survived the initial impact but died later in the hospital due to severe neck and chest injuries. On that somber note, let's move on. I know I generally don't talk about this, but this time I feel I have to make an exception because what I'm about to say had a huge impact in Formula 1 for many years to come. And that is the introduction of the Ford DFV engine, one of the most successful and highly praised engines ever built. In fact, it was so good that it was used well into the 1970s. It really was a fantastic engine and it deserves every bit of praise it got, and it was introduced in 1967, so that's a big thing, at least in my opinion. And now it's time to talk about the biggest change that came forth in 1967, and it has to do with the scoring system. It was completely revamped for the new season, and I will try to explain how it worked to the best of my ability. The idea of dropping your worst results remained, however you got to keep much more of your results than previously. The easiest way to show you how this works is to, well, pretty much show you directly. What you're looking at right now are the top 6 finishers of 1967 with all of their results. Here we have the same thing but with the points filled out on the right side. Now with the old system, in this case we would drop the 5 worst results of the season, which would give us this result for the end of the season. As you can see, Denny Hulme, despite having overall more points, would end up in 3rd after applying the result drops, boosting Brabham into 1st and Clark into 2nd. Now let's clear all of this and look at how this would play out with the new system, which states that you can keep your 5 best results from the first 6 races and the 4 best results from the remaining 5 races. So let's put that into practice and see what happens when we retain the best 5 results from the first 6 races. Well, the standings revert back to how they were before we applied the penalties initially. Now let's look at what, if anything, changes when we retain the 4 best results from the final 5 races. Voila! Not much changed. Aside from Brabham losing 2 points, everything else stays pretty much the same. I would say that this is a much fairer system to the previous one, but that's just me. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing how this will affect our championship, and with all that said, let's have a look at the opening round of the 1967 season, the South African Grand Prix. It was held on the 2nd of January at the Kyalami Circuit. It had 18 entries, all of them took part in the race, with 12 ending up retiring. The race consisted of 80 laps completed in 2 hours, 5 minutes and 46 seconds. Jack Brabham started the race from pole with Hulme in 2nd, Clark 3rd, but he retired on lap 22 due to an engine problem. Rodriguez was 4th on the grid, Love 5th and Surtees started from 6th. After a chaotic race, Pedro Rodriguez moved into the lead to win the South African Grand Prix from John Love, who started from 2nd and was 26.4 seconds behind Rodriguez. Surtees came home in 3rd, he started the race from 6th and was 1 lap down. Hulme dropped from 2nd to 4th and was 2 laps down. Anderson moved from 10th to 5th, he was 2 laps down as well, and Brabham dropped from 1st to 6th and was 4 laps adrift. The fastest man of the race was Denny Hulme, who posted a time of 1 minute 29.9 seconds. And here we are for the very first time at the Kyalami Circuit in South Africa for the season opener, where a lap starts off with a long run down into turn 1, a medium speed right-hander that leads into turn 2, a slightly faster right-hander. Turn 3 is next, a fast left-hand kink that takes us into Sunset Bend, a fast right-hander. Turn 5 is up next, a slow tight left-hander. This leads into the S's, a medium speed left-right chicane. Be careful of the sudden elevation changes. Turn 8 is a medium speed right-hander which leads into turn 9, a high-speed right-hand kink that brings us around onto the main straight, and that is a lap around the Kyalami Circuit. And here we are in qualifying for the South African Grand Prix, coming around to set our first flying lap, a 1:29.525. Unfortunately, that's not very fast. That's in fact almost 20 seconds slower than a pole time, but I cannot do too much about that. I managed to improve a little bit and set a 1:28.314. That's only 1 second faster, however, so that's not going to help us all that much. I tried to go even faster, but somehow I cannot get the Cooper to go any faster. And here we are at the Kyalami Circuit for the very first time. As we take a look at the previous South African Grand Prix winners, we haven't won a South African Grand Prix yet, and obviously not here. But yeah, this is the very first time we race in Kyalami. Previously, this race was held at the East London Circuit. But anyway, we have Jack Brabham started from pole with Surtees in 2nd, Mike Spence 3rd, 4th is Denny Hulme, 5th Jim Clark, 6th is Pedro Rodriguez, followed by Chris Amon in 7th, Graham Hill in 8th. Then in 9th we have Dan Gurney, followed by Piers Courage in 10th. In 11th we have Mike Parks. John Love is 12th, 13th is Jochen Rindt, followed by Joe Siffert in 14th. In 15th we have Jackie Stewart, followed by Joe Bonnier in 16th. In 17th we have Chris Irwin. Lorenzo Bandini is 18th, 19th is Mike Fisher. David Hobbs is 20th, 21st is Jean-Pierre Beltois, 22nd is Richie Ginster, 21st Bruce McLaren. Epi Weitzes is 24th, which is a weird name for a Canadian. 25th Ligier. Johnny Servos-Gavin 26th, 27th Jackie X, 28th Bob Anderson, 29th Lucky Botha, 30th Sam Tingle, 31st Dave Charlton and Andy Higgs, 32nd. So those are the that is the grid lineup for the South African Grand Prix, the opening round of the 1967 season. Hopefully it will be a good race, but judging by the qualifying, I'm not too hopeful. And we are off for the very first time here in Kyalami, and we're very slow, and it looks like there's someone stuck on the grid there. Not quite sure who it is. It's actually John Love. He's having problems starting his car. However, I know for a fact that he will eventually get it going, so he's not retiring yet, as we now go down the hill and into turn 1. Slow down into 3rd gear, and I try to keep the car going as fast as possible through that corner, but I cannot, and Dave Charlton and indeed everyone else pulls away as we take another look at the start of the race, and we see there John Love kind of stuck on the grid. He was even pushed around by a couple of cars, but as I said, he's not actually retired, he's just having some difficulties getting the car going, and this was actually something that happened quite a lot during this period, so it's nothing out of the ordinary. As we come through turn 1 here, and we're losing a lot of time. Now moving on to lap 2, and we have a retirement in the form of Jim Clark, and everyone else is pulling away from us very quickly now. So I'm really struggling to keep up to the AI as we see a replay of Jim Clark coming through turn 1 here. He's going very fast, it seems. He flips the car upside down, and he's out of the South African Grand Prix, so that's that for him. And we also have a replay of Jackie Stewart, who does pretty much the same thing. However, he flies off the map, so, well, he's out of the race as well. Now moving on to lap 3, he's trying to catch up to everyone, but to no avail. Sam Tingle is in front of us, but he's pulling away very quickly, as we see a replay of Apophis here coming into the pits, the Canadian, apparently with a gearbox problem, and he is out of the South African Grand Prix as well. And here's a replay of Jochen Rindt coming very fast through turn 2 here, flips his car upside down and flies off the map as well. We now move on to lap 5, and Jean-Pierre Beltois is now out of the race, as well as we are now in 27th. We will move up into 26th as soon as we move past Beltois. And here is a replay of the Frenchman coming into turn 1 very fast. The physics kind of go haywire. He crashes into one of those catch fences, but obviously that's not enough. He even lost a wheel, and he's out of the South African Grand Prix. We now move on to lap 27, and Joe Bonnier is now out of the way, as the AI is starting to lap me at this point. Yes, they've already started to lap me, as we take a look at a replay of Joe Bonnier, who loses control of his car coming out of the slowest corner of on the track, which is quite interesting. And we now move on to lap 28, and there we see Joe Bonnier on the side of the road there. And we have a replay of Richie Ginster, who also retired. He pulls to the side of the track coming into this slow left-hander, and he hits something at the side of the road there, loses a wheel, and he's out of the South African Grand Prix as well. We are now on lap 9, and Pedro Rodriguez has retired. And here is a replay of that coming into turn 1. A lot of these incidents happen in turn 1, it seems. He goes very quickly as well. The car lifts up onto 2 wheels, then he loses complete control of the car, flips a couple of times, and I speed up the replay a little bit here. He tries to get back onto the track, but somehow, even though he was moving like 20 kilometers per hour, he somehow still flips his car upside down, and he's out of the race as well. We're now on lap 14 as we take a look at a replay of Mike Spence coming around to set the fastest lap of the race, so congratulations to him. That was on lap 15. I was on lap 14 as we now move on to lap 16. And Chris Irwin is now out of the race, as well as we take a look at a replay of his retirement. Just like everyone else, pretty much going fast through the corners and flipping the car upside down. Moving on to lap 17, and Mike Spence is now out of the race as well. That's unfortunate, given that he is leading the race at this point and is the fastest man in the race. And here he is coming out of the final corner of the track. We see him there at the back, kind of pulling onto the middle of the circuit for whatever reason, and he's out of the race. We now move on to lap 22, and Lucky Bossa is now out of the race as well, as we continue to fall behind everyone else. And here is a replay of Bossa coming into the pits to retire, apparently also with a gearbox problem. So that is that, I guess. Not much reason to continue racing if you don't have all of your gears. Anyway, we now move on to lap 23, and Bruce McLaren has retired from the race as well. And here is a replay of Bruce McLaren in the all-new red McLaren instead of the white from last season, coming through the turn 1 here very fast, loses control, and he's upside down. And once again I speed up the replay because there's more to this. He backs up onto the circuit and then gets collected by Mike Parks, and that's the end of both the races. And here's a replay of Mike Parks coming around, crashes into McLaren's car, and that's that for their race. And we have a replay of Chris Amon here coming into the pits to retire due to a gearbox problem. So those are pretty much all the retirements this race, as we now move on to lap 24, our final lap, as Jack Brabham crosses the line to win the South African Grand Prix. And here is a replay of Brabham coming around to win. So congratulations to Jack Brabham, did a fantastic job to stay in the lead after Mike Spence's retirement. And here we are ourselves coming around to finish lap 24 and the South African Grand Prix. Very, very bad race for us. Graham Hill finished second, Piers Courage third, fourth David Hobbs fifth, Lorenzo Bandini and Denny Holm finishes the race in sixth. Once again, Mike Spence managed to post the fastest lap of the race, so that's nice for him. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to win. Here are a few more people who managed to finish the race, and we have the retirements as well. Unfortunately, we number ourselves among them. Well, it's not really a retirement, we just didn't classify, we didn't manage to complete 90% of race distance, unfortunately. If we were just a little bit faster, then we might have been able to classify in 20th or 21st or wherever we were in the field. But anyway, let's move on. Here are the career statistics. This was Andy's 151st Grand Prix. His best start is from first, has 16 pole positions, has set 29 fastest laps. His best finishes in first, has completed 96 races, 75 of them in the points, has won 44 Grand Prix, 4 at the Indianapolis 500, 6 in Monaco, has 8 championships under his belt, has scored a total of 516 points, has retired 55 times, has experienced 3,205 out of 3,963 laps, has 7 bronze trophies, 16 silver trophies, 44 gold trophies, and as an extension 44 podiums. And here is a quick look at the championship standings. Obviously everything is pretty much the same. Brabham is leading the championship at the moment with Graham Hill in second, Piers Courage third, David Hobbs fourth, Lorenzo Bandini fifth, Denny Holm 6th. We are down in 20th, and bringing up the bottom of the Drivers' Championship is Jim Clark down in 32nd. And I will be keeping this black line separating the season in two as a visual aid to help us better understand how the new scoring system works. It will help both me and you guys to better see what's happening, so that's that. And I'm going to keep this black separation line until the scoring system changes, which is going to be quite a long way away, so we'll see this for a very, very long time. Anyway, let's move on to the constructors now. And here we have Brabham Racing Organization taking the lead in the championship with Team Lotus in second, Rick Parnell Racing in third, Bernard White Racing fourth, and Scuderia Ferrari are the last team to score points. They are in fifth. Our team Cooper are in ninth, and bringing up the bottom of the Constructors Championship are Joe Bonnier Racing Team down in 19th. So that was the South African Grand Prix, the opening round of the 1967 season. Not a very good race for Andy. a fairly decent race for Cooper as a whole, but not for Andy. Again, I was struggling a lot to keep up to the AI. I'm not quite sure why, but for whatever reason, I wasn't able to keep the same speed through the corners as the AI was. So yeah, whatever. I really tried to go as fast as I could, but that's that, I guess. Anyway, our next race is the Monaco Grand Prix, so hopefully things will go a little bit better there. Although Monaco is famous for pretty much wiping out the entire field. Hopefully that won't happen, but you'll never know with Monaco. So I guess I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen there. But that is it for the South African Grand Prix and this video, so yeah, not much more to add to any of this. Obviously, as soon as this video goes live, you will already be able to vote for next season's teams, so make sure to check out the link in the description, which will take you to the straw poll where you can do so. Obviously, only if you want to have a say in what team Andy Higgs will be driving in the next season. If not, then, well, I don't know. Just enjoy the video. So yeah, that is it for this video. Don't forget to vote for next season's team. Link is in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, stay sharp.